Bonjour. It is now 10 o'clock in the morning in Vancouver, 7 o'clock at night in Paris. Welcome to everyone who joining us for this last session for today's presentations. Welcome back for the one who are present to the previous ones. I'm Franck. I'm the co-founder founder of Besto France with Julien just behind the screen working on the technical aspect of that presentation. So today, we're going to finish again our day presentations with the last one, this one, which is how to prepare your semester to make sure that it's a successful experience you're going to have in France. We covered before the different choices, different options that you have in France. We covered as well the technical and administration aspect with a visa and all the benefit you can get from the scholarship from different programs available. And the session that just ended like a few minutes ago was about the accommodation-based cities to consider outside of Paris. Because there's not in Paris in options in France when it comes to pick up your school. So we would like to have the idea was to have a panel with Eric joining us now with Antoine. Sorry, thank you very much, guys. Again, 7 o'clock. It's kind of the end of the day for you guys. Antoine is joining us from Nantes and Eric from Paris. I'm going to pass on the mic to Eric just to introduce yourself, and then we'll do the same with Antoine, and we'll follow up with the questions. Eric.
Sure. Thanks, Frank. Hi, Canada. My name, as Frank said, is Eric Lucrezia. I am American originally from New York, and I know Canada quite well. I've been all over many times throughout most of the cities in Canada. It's a beautiful country, and I've been living in France, in Paris, for the last 11 years. And most of my career, I've been working in education, so I know very much about different programs here in France and a few other countries that I've lived in. For the last year and a half, I've been full-time doing coaching with the company I created called Candidate Coach. So I work with people applying for master's and MBA programs for the most part, whether here in France or anywhere in the world. Candidates are coming from all over. And I'm also the author of a book series, one of which is quite interesting, perhaps to some of you in Canada, called Getting Into an MBA in France. And so I'm here to share with you some tips, some advice, or what I can share about getting ready for your experience studying abroad. So thank you and welcome.
Thank you, Eric. Antoine?
Yes, hello. My name is Antoine Lebeau. As you can hear, I'm French. I'm very proud of this French accent. I think I have to keep it because it's part of the charm, isn't it? So I speak from Nantes, western part of France. Well, very close to Canada, actually. And I've been working for now more than 20 years in the education field as an international manager or coordinator. I am currently a director of international relations of a French engineering school specialized in wood science and technology and biosource materials. Quite a unique engineering school, actually, because there are only 2 engineering schools in this specific field of activity in France. And my studies and my career enabled me to travel all around the world and to visit Canada, of course, Vancouver. Apart from Vancouver, I've been also to the United States of America, South America. Well, I've been traveling quite a lot, and from all my trips and all my sharings with the students, I keep in mind this beautiful job and beautiful experience I would like to share with all of you tonight, which is going abroad is a great opportunity to get to know better and to challenge yourself and to be a better person in a way. So I'm very glad for your invitation. Thank you again.
Thank you, Antoine. I do agree with you. Something that I would like to share, Sir Eric, is that we have to keep our French accent. That's the way I got my wife with a blanquette de veau. That was the 2 things that that make her decide to marry me. All right, a little bit more serious now. Eric, I'd like to come back to your career. You mentioned about ESSEC and the Sciences Po. Can you tell us more about what was your function there, and what did you learn from there?
Yes, absolutely. Do you want me to do a French accent as well? Or, actually, I keep my
Eric
American accent.
Eric speaks a perfect French. We don't know that he's American. He speaks a very, very good French. Go ahead, Eric.
Ça va, ça va. Merci beaucoup. Yeah, absolutely. So I guess I'll start talking about Sciences Po, where I worked first. So for those of you who don't know, Sciences Po is one of the most prestigious institutions in France, which started its heritage based on political science, hence the name Sciences Po, as in politique, but is largely expanded to a lot of other areas. They're very big in their journalism school, in consulting, international affairs, and so forth. And when I worked there a few years ago, I was the person in charge of international student affairs. So what we oversaw was the welcome program. So that's, first of all, good to know that a lot of schools do indeed have some kind of orientation or welcome program. So I each semester actually would hire a team of about 35 older students who I put through a training, who they get up to speed on all the information you need to know, learning some team building activities and so on to do with the students when they come in. About 1,000 came every fall and 600 in the spring. And we would basically explain everything there is to know about school, not only like a tour of the campus, but doing some fun things so you can meet other people and break the ice and start feeling comfortable in your new home. Also explaining a lot of the services that exist on campus and doing things off campus as well. Also in my role, besides the orientation throughout the year, I was kind of like a point person for any student that had any kind of problem, whether it be legal, medical, residential, whatever it may be, just somebody you can go to that speaks English at least for sure and can help translate to whatever person that you need if you need some professional services. And yeah, we had a student association for international students, so there was activities that were geared towards non-French people to help make the experience studying at Sciences Po more complete. At ESSEC, it was a different role. So ESSEC is one of the top business schools in France. It is one of what is called a grande école, and what that literally translates to is great school, right? Pretty basic name, but you could maybe compare it to the Ivy League school in France. It's a little bit different because there's grande école in each area. There's grande école in engineering and business and medicine and so on. So there are many more of them at the end of the day compared to the 8 Ivy League schools in the US. But in any case, I was the director of recruitment for the global MBA program. So me and my team would travel all over the world, and that's how I got to know Franck in Vancouver and many other people over the years to basically attract and convince people to apply for and ultimately choose to come to ESSEC and not other schools. So with colleagues, we would again have strategies in place to help the incoming international students integrate to find all the things they needed to find, whether it be an apartment, a residence on campus or an apartment in town in Paris, or and yeah, just any kind of services they needed, whether it be financial or health insurance, all of those things. So I think the message is that most of the schools around, I think Antoine could probably confirm, have offices or people in place to help international students transition and begin their year or multiple years studying here in France.
Okay, thank you, Eric. We're very, very glad to have Antoine with us today because I guess in a lot of people's minds, when it comes to considering studying overseas abroad, basically it's MBA, classic like a business school. As you mentioned, Antoine, your school is one of two kind of schools available in France about wood. It might not be something that people will consider at first, again, when they consider France as a place to study. So can you tell us more about the international student that you have at your school? What the typical profile that you have as international students?
Mm-hmm. Yes, you're right. It's quite a rare and unique school, and maybe the first project you have in mind when you want to travel and to come to France. So I'll try to make it clear to you and to the students who are watching us today. First of all, I would say that maybe you mentioned it before, but coming to France is in itself, it's an experience of diversity, experience of a personal and sensitive, unique thing in your life. but it's always also a kind of understanding the complexity, because in France, I think it's about 3,000 higher education institutions. So how can you actually decide on which one you should go, which one you should join? And what I want to say is that of course you have to rely on personal acquaintances or age and network, and it is important to understand that the system in France is very different. So in short, we have in France about 250 engineering schools, which are not universities. Okay, so it means that there are specific institutions very closer to industries. You have a high selection in this kind of institutions with a basis and background of science and technology. And then each engineering school has its own domain of specialty, I would say. So in my case, students come to our school in order to change the world, in short. Why? Because we dedicate our education to this renewable material, which is wood, but also biosourced materials. But the wood in itself is not a sector compared to a mechanical engineering school, which will dedicate to automobile, for example, or car industry or plane industry. Wood is everywhere. It's in a house, it can be in a plane, it can be in a boat, it's wood energy, it's wood building, it's furnishing. So it's many kind of jobs and opportunities. So there are no just one sector in itself. So the students who come to us are students who want to, in a way, change the world by getting to know more than the material in itself, but also how to use it, how to implement it in very diverse sectors. And that's why we have about 10 to 12 different nationalities every year. We have Brazilians, Chileans, Chinese, Gabonese, Tunisian, Morocco, so people from Africa, French and non-French speaking students. We have North American, of course, American and Canadian students, but also students from Europe. We have currently German, Latvians, and also, I forgot, sorry, this year we have Mexicans and Iranians. So that's great because in a way, for our French students also, before going abroad, being in our school is a way to get access to kind of diversity. And for those who want to come to Nantes, that they won't be only with French students, they will be with a kind of representation of the diversity of the world. And to finish, and not to be too long, sorry about that, the background of the students is science, obviously, because in engineering school, they have to get a minimum of bachelor 2 or 3 years of science and technology. Not compulsorily in wood. We have students coming from civil engineering, mechanical engineering, so also scientists coming from scientist university grounds and bachelors. So the prerequisites are quite open, actually, in engineering schools.
Okay, thank you very much, Antoine. If we put ourselves into students' shoes, and then we have the choice of, I mean, we have the idea of studying overseas, abroad, and then different options offered to us, especially for Canadian English-speaking people. Obviously, States was a destination that you consider first, so maybe England or Scotland. Thinking about France, obviously, you have in some people's mind this language barrier. How is that difficult if you don't speak French to live in France? Let's say Nantes for you, Antoine, Paris for you, Eric. How do you approach that? We understand the program in English, that's no problem, but can you survive in a world where you don't know if your neighbor speaks French, or if you go to buy your groceries, people won't understand you? So maybe Eric first in Paris, Antoine in Nantes.
Okay, here's what I have to say about this. Yes, there are a lot of programs that you can come to France, and they're all in English, so you're not required to know any French, but definitely knowing French, at least basic French, will not only make your life a little bit easier, but will make your experience richer and more enjoyable. At a minimum, I think you have to know that you have to start every conversation with bonjour. That's kind of a requirement. If you just start speaking without bonjouring someone, they'll, makes them bug. But just kind of as a way of being respectful and polite. You're in a foreign land. Try your best to speak a little bit, and I think that goes a long way. And I think a lot of, at least in Paris, I mean, you can tell me what you think, Antoine, of Nantes, but I think most people in Paris can speak at least basic English. Now the question is, are they confident enough to try it or not? I think French people really are a little bit perfectionist, and they hesitate to try to speak English sometimes if they don't feel they can say it perfectly, which is a shame, because nobody speaks perfect English. I mean, nobody cares about speaking the Queen's English. So I really think it's case by case. Some people are more shy or more willing to try in English than others. But it's definitely to your advantage to learn a little bit of French before you come, if you can, even if it's just the most basic stuff, because I think that little bit of effort is welcome and will go a long way.
Thank you, Eric. Antoine.
Yes, I would say it depends also whether you come for a degree or not. If you just here for semester periods, so which means 5 to 6 months, it's not so important. If you come for a degree period, so for let's say 3 semesters up to 2 years or more, I agree with you, Eric. It is really compulsory. It's compulsory. Then you have different types of offers. You have English offers, education program in English. So it's not compulsory in itself, but it helps socially. If it's in French, of course, the school require a minimum level of French, which is usually B1, according to the European certification of language. Then a lot of schools provide French for foreigners courses. So you don't have to be too afraid about that, because, for example, in our very small and unionized institution, because we have only at ESB, where I work, 400 students, we do provide French for foreigners courses online and also physically. So really, it's a great occasion to improve. And I agree with Eric. The best way to improve is to go outside, to go out, to have fun with French students. And also, please check in the school you want to apply if your courses will be only dedicated for international, or if you will be mixed with French ones, which is not the same thing. For example, in our school at ESB, we are all together. It means that this really helps the integration and the language development of the incoming students.
Agree.
Absolutely.
Totally agree on that.
Absolutely. I think that something, if I could sum up my role as my title was Responsable de la vie étudiante internationale. So in charge of international student life. And I think if I can sum up my role in one word, it was integration, which was tough to do because a lot of the French students were really only taking their classes in French, and all the international students took it in English. And that separation right there made it super hard to make those connections. So my bit of advice would be to avoid the trap of only hanging out with people from your home country. I get that when you're in a foreign land, some people that are from your home country can be really familiar and reassuring, especially if you're feeling homesick or running into some challenges. But if you do have some friends from your home country that are closest to you, make that extra effort to connect with some local people, or at a minimum, people not from your country. I mean, you don't make the effort to study abroad just to study with people that are already from your country. It doesn't make any sense. So definitely want to make that effort. And then I wanted to extend this concept of speaking the language being necessary or not to after you finish your degree. Because if you want to find a job here in France, that's another question. You very well could study here for a semester or a year or whatever and not speak the language. And okay, now, if you want to work here, most jobs are going to be in French. Yes, there's exceptions. You have companies like Estee Lauder. They use English as their operating language. But most companies are going to use French. And I think a lot of native English speakers, whether from the US or India or Australia, have the misconception that English is the universal language. I can use it anywhere. Yes, I mean, like if we're talking about a company like a bank here in Paris, and they're doing business with a Russian bank, they're probably speaking English between the two of them. But all the daily operations of that French bank will be in French, and all the daily operations of that Russian bank will be in Russian. So yes, English is helpful, but it is not going to answer all your professional needs. You may find a company willing to hire you if you speak enough French to get by, with an expectation that you're going to continue to improve during the time that you work here. So it's cultural. The French are very proud of their language, and rightfully so. So if you're going to be here, I think it's on you to make the effort. And realistically speaking, it takes probably about 2 years to really get good enough at a language. So what I usually advise people to do before they come is to take intensive language courses, so you have some base level before you come here. If you're going to spend at least a year here, I think it's really worth it.
Okay. So I hear well that if as a Canadian don't feel comfortable with chick chick kiss kiss like a French word, that's okay, right? I can survive.
La bise you're talking about?
La bise, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. There's a funny comedy sketch about that. I'm trying to think of the guy's name. He's from the UK, and he talks about that.
Exactly. Yeah.
I think it depends on the context. In the office culture,
sure.
And on campus, you're probably not doing the bise, the kiss, that much.
But not
with
to
friends,
your boss.
Yeah.
So I make the decision. I'm a student. I made the decision. I pick up the school. I went through all these process. I got my visa. I got the scholarship and everything. I go to the school, and should expect to have within the faculty some people or department, whoever, that can help me as a foreigner to go through the first steps and the first days or weeks, where there are a lot of things that I have to assimilate and I might be lost. So do schools usually provide kind of a support internally?
Did you want to go first, Antoine?
It's up to you.
Antoine?
Okay, I start. Well, from my experience, it is your question is very important, because of course it's now part of the international departments in either universities or business school or engineering schools. So that's part of my job, and so the institution get in touch before the arrival of the students with him, so that we can arrange all administrative practical things. Then we organize an integration week for the students, so that they all the necessary information. The problem is that some of the students don't arrive at the same time, and some arrive late. We have the case this year again because of the visa. So in case we also provide specific information for them, so that they can go smoothly through all the very painful, not to use another word, first month for all the administrative and practical things. One more thing we do, and which is very appreciated, is that we have buds, mentors, students, usually French, the same promotion, that dedicate their time to help the students from the airport to the accommodation for the first night. For the first week, we will take care of him or her for all the daily things, and opening a bank account, the security, social security card, and to survive in the school for the first hours. So that's something that usually the school provide, but you can check. That's my second advice. Please check what do the university you want to apply for offer to the international students, apart from the international department, which usually does the job of it.
I definitely agree. Besides the visa and health insurance, which are generally speaking required to be done and in place before you even arrive, one of the first things you should do when you arrive in France is open a bank account. And fortunately, a lot of the schools do have partnerships with banks, local banks, that help you do that. A lot of the banks, because they want your business, will set up shop on campus. In my opinion, if you're going to be here for at least a semester, it's worth it to open a bank account. It will just facilitate everything else. People often do bank transfers this way. If you are signing up for a gym membership, usually they want you to have a local bank account to be able to pay for that. For a cell phone plan, you're limited to the prepaid cards if you don't have a local bank account and an address here. The thing is, the catch is, and it's like kind of a joke, like to open the bank account, you need an address, but often to get an apartment, you have to have a bank account, right? So the way to get around that is, bienvenue. The way to get around that is many times the schools allow you to use their campus address as your temporary address, and the banks will accept that as well. And then you can open up the bank account that way. Then with that bank account, you have, it's another thing, as I was suggesting, when you're looking for an apartment, it helps to have a local bank account. It creates an element of trust between landlords and foreign people who, you know, they may have had a bad experience in the past of someone who's not paid the rent and then just run off to their home country. So it's important to build that trust in a city like Paris, especially, where there's like infinite people looking for apartments, and there's more people looking than apartments available sometimes. So yeah, very, very important early on to open up a bank account. And from there, everything else sort of unfolds. And as I said, and as Antoine also has just said, most schools do have some kind of service that helps students get that step done.
Okay, thanks very much. That's so true. Still, in terms of preparation before going to the school, what else students should consider? I'm thinking rather about all those digital platforms and solutions that we have, like networking on through LinkedIn or Facebook or Instagram or whatever. Are they good sources for students to get ready for the life in the next months for semester or so?
Absolutely. I guess I'll start off, if that's okay. The places that I've worked, not only in France, but around the world, I mean, since social media has been around, I've leveraged that as a way to get students, first of all, to connect with one another, to get questions answered and diffuse information about any like events or orientation programs, to even create a sense of pride for the school early on. So yeah, absolutely. So Facebook usually is kind of more about either groups where you can get questions answered, find out about events. I would say Instagram is kind of like fun stuff, and maybe, yeah, even also advertising for events that are coming up. Often during, like, there's a welcome week many times at schools when they launch the semester at la rentrée, as they say here in France, which is basically back to school in September. LinkedIn, of course, is the real professional platform, and whether you're studying business or engineering or medicine or whatever it may be, I think LinkedIn is a very interesting platform to be a part of. It has, you can have a lot of opportunity coming from that. Obviously, the point of studying something is to get a job afterwards, and so networking is hugely important. And you know, if you're a young person now, whether in high school or in university, and you have not set up a LinkedIn account and started, you know, regularly being on, like, once a week, get on there, try to connect with some people, you should do that immediately, and you will thank me and yourself later for doing so, because, you know, later on when you're looking for jobs, opportunities, and so on, it's just a fantastic platform to find out about things, people who know you, who say, you know, something I heard about this job opening up, Eric, you should check this out. I mean, that's really how it works often these days, to find opportunities. So all of the social media platforms are great places to get connected to right away.
All right. Absolutely. Thanks, Eric. Terrific. Antoine, anything else to add?
Yes. Apart from networking and internet, I would say prepare about traveling to France. It's something in itself you have really to think about and prepare about, as I said as an introduction, about living in a different, very, very different, far away from what you expect country. So prepare to another philosophy, another social way of life, another way of speaking English, another way of communicating. So for me, before getting to know the language, I would advise you, my third advice tonight, to try to understand the French way of life, the French philosophy, the French culture. That's a good way to prepare before traveling, because all that matters, all that content, all that knowledge that you will gather, you will then use it in the conversation you will have with the French. For example, if you come to Nantes, well, maybe you should interest about the football club de Nantes, football team, soccer. maybe you should interest yourself in an oyster, what is French wine, what is Malais, what is the medieval castle of Nantes. Well, try to have some knowledge about the place where you will move, so that you can engage the conversation with the people. So it's prepare yourself, but also prepare the social links that you will then develop. That's my advice. Then, of course, we have alumni, maybe from your university. Maybe you can contact them. The students been abroad in France, for example, last year. Maybe you can get in touch with them. Maybe the school you plan to visit has ambassadors. That's a case at ESB. We have ambassadors, for example, in Canada, not to name it, his name is Julien Mangui. And they are very useful because these guys can help you decide upon it's the right place to go or not. Okay, so all that kind of alumni, students, tutors, of course, try to be in touch with them. And to finish, the website of the school, of course, will provide you quite a lot of information about not only the courses, but also the social life, accommodation, and all things.
Just a question coming up now. How much time in advance you think that it's necessary for students for them to get ready and prepare, as you just mentioned about all those different? I understand it's hard to answer. There's not such a standard answer, but roughly that couple of weeks, couple of months, that 6 months ahead. I just put aside the language because, as Eric mentioned, it might take more time. But for all those cultural, historical aspects of the region you consider, how long do you think it would need people to get ready for?
I think for visa it's minimum 4 months, but then it's your will. It's really the will of the person. If you really want to do it, if you want to be ready, well, 2 weeks before can be enough. It's really a way of thinking.
Yeah, I mean, you can put as much or as little time as you want, but I think if you're curious, if you're a curious person, I think that's a good quality. Look into the place that you're coming to. If you can just learn a couple of things about wine, about fashion, about sports in France, about geography, you'll have enough to start a conversation, and then you'll learn more. But showing that you're genuinely curious, I think, will make people want to open up to you and share, and you'll always discover more. And also, it goes two ways, huh? Be proud of who you are and where you're from and your own culture as well, and be happy and open to share, because I think a lot of French people are curious about outside of their borders and will want to hear from you about what happens in Canada or wherever you come from originally. Okay.
Thanks, Antoine. Thanks very much. It's great. I mean, I have to say something I'm not very proud of, but I've never been to Nantes. But the way you promote the destination, I feel like I really have to go next time. I'll end to Paris. I'll go to Nantes first and visit the family after.
You're more than welcome.
In that session, thank you. In that session, we're talking about making sure that we have a successful semester going there. So if we want to evacuate all those administration obstacles that you might have through in your path to make it successful, what are the things that you need to get ready and prepare before the arrival? Sorry. Or Eric mentioned, of course, about this, and you too, Antoine, about the visa, but as well opening a bank account. That can be done only when you're here. But are there any other administrative mandatory things that you have to make sure you done that, so you don't put yourself in a situation where it makes the thing more problematic than anything else?
So I don't know if we talked about medical insurance, but yeah, that's something you want to have in place. It's pretty affordable. It's like 200 something bucks. As far as I understand, at least in the MBA world, but I think it's for all students. It's the same. 200 something bucks, and you have the state medical insurance. I guess it depends on the duration of your program. I think it's because the MBA is a year. Where I used to work, it was this case. But if you're here for like a multiple year or a 4-year institution, it might be a little bit different. But that might be a requirement for your visa, depending on how long your stay is for. But beyond that, there are some steps. I mentioned one of the first things you should do upon arrival is opening a bank account. For many, depending on the kind of visa you have, you might have to do something at what is called OFI. So it's the Office Française d'Immigration, Immigration et Intégration, immigration and integration. And what I've had to do, and a lot of students I know had to do, within a certain time frame, you kind of have to declare your arrival and show up at this place. For some, depending on your national origin, you have to get a tuberculosis exam. So I had to get a chest X-ray. I'm from the U.S., but they're checking for this and making sure that And now in the time of COVID, who knows? There may be a COVID test people have to get upon arrival as a student. Who knows? So there's this medical thing and visa kind of confirming your arrival thing. You might have to go to what's called the préfecture. I'm not even sure if we use this word in English or in Canada, but prefecture, it's basically the administrative seat of the city or the municipality that you're going to. So once you arrive, you may have to show up for a meeting there just to give some documents and so on. I might mention that you don't walk around the city in your daily life with your passport in your pocket. You have that in a safe place in your residence or your apartment. It's not necessary. Like I know in the US, I'm not sure about Canada, but in the US, they're very strict about, when you go into a bar, you have to show ID and have ID on you at all times. You don't keep your passport on you. You want that in a safe place at home, and you only take it when you are either traveling abroad or if you have an administrative thing to do at the prefecture. I think that's pretty much it for administrative steps that I was going to say. Yeah.
Thank you, Eric. Yeah, makes sense. Antoine?
Yes, well, I don't want to be too long because it's quite fastidious and long. So rely on the universities and international department that you have that will bring you the whole list of things to bring. But I agree with Eric. Health insurance is important because, as you know, there is a French coverage, and on top you can have an additional complementary, additional health coverage. So that's something important. Even though the for health are most cheaper, I think, in Europe and in France compared to the North America. Also, all that kind of civil liability insurance, insurance for the accommodation as well. So all that kind of things, you can either do it before you arrive or once you arrive. It depends on your situation. So mostly that's what I can say. Of course, you need to have money on your bank account, and for the first month, because the first month the accommodation will be asked to give a deposit, and sometimes 1-2 months of rent. So it can be up to 3 months for the first payment. So that's quite so that kind of thing, but not to worry you. All that kind of things are usually detailed and accompanied and checked by the university you apply for.
Okay. All right. Thanks very much. So as a student, I went through all those process and everything. Now I'm in the school. I identify some people who help me to absorb all those cultural and all different aspects of being in France. Are there in the school any other entities such as like student associations, clubs? Talking about sport, talking about cultural, talking about different things that are key things that will help you, me as a student, to integrate myself even better. We briefly mentioned about that before, but if we could be more specifics, there might be as well difference between universities in North America. Eric, if you're more familiar with that, do you see any similarities or some differences between the social life beside the studies, beside the campus, that helps the students to integrate even better?
Okay, so I think universities in the US are particularly strong at this, having a really well-developed campus life with like a very vast, student association life, sports teams. I mean, I think a lot of people know competitive sports in the US are like a big money thing too. Like, college basketball is arguably bigger than, the national. Anyway, but I think that's been growing more and more in France. I think I'm not sure if it's like mirroring the US or what, but from what I can see, it seems to be growing. Every school is different. Some schools are more like career oriented and really focused on a specific subject. I don't know if this is the case, Antoine, at Dubois, they may or may not have like student associations that are professional, like related to what the ultimate goal is, to find a job in this subject area. Or if you also have like a big sports life and so on. The school, when I worked at ESSEC, they had a decent campus because it's outside of Paris. So they had residences, they had sports teams, they had competitions, they had like tennis courts and indoor like hockey or whatever, or basketball also. A lot of student associations based on either culture or performance. So pretty vibrant student life. On the other hand, when I worked with Sciences Po in the center of Paris, they didn't really have a lot of space. It's in a very dense area, old buildings, not really much space. So they would try to do some things. They would like either rent the space in a basketball court in some other gym across the city, or a swimming pool and so on. They did their best. They had student associations, but it was nothing close to compare to when you have like a proper campus with all this kind of space and you can actually do events and parties, fundraisers, this kind of thing. So it will vary from school to school, I would say.
Antoine, what about Nantes?
I agree with Eric, but never forget where you come from. You come from Canada. Very few Canadian students actually in France, from what I know. I don't know if you agree with that, Eric, but that's a chance. That's a chance. Being that if you present yourself and you said that you were or Toronto, I don't know where in Canada, well, students will look at you and say, well, that's great. I've never met a Canadian student before. So that's a chance, first thing. Then it's true that, and it will help your integration because people will be curious. Then being in a small city or in a medium-sized city can help also integration, because being a Canadian in Paris is, well, being a citizen in Paris. Being a Canadian in Nantes, whoa, what's going on? So you've been an interest of curiosity, and people will look at you now. It will help because we have 50,000 students in Nantes, and as I said, the student life is quite alive, and you integrate with other students and so on and so forth. So for me, small cities, for people who are how could I say that, focused on the human side of the welcome and so on, can help integration. And so in Nantes, for example, and in our school, as I said, we have tutors and we organize special events for the international students, but mixed with the French students. So the size of the school and the size of the city can help this human dimension. Then what is the best way to integrate? As Eric said, it depends on the school. For example, in our school, we don't have all that facilities, but we make boats, wooden boats. So the students can sail because the sea is 40 minutes from the school. That's another example, but it depends on, actually, we make bicycles as well, made out of bamboo. So students can ride. They recently, during this summer, have been in the Alps to do all the highest peaks of the Alps. So that's another example. So it all depends on the school. So please, again, check on the website of the school and what can they propose.
I want a bamboo bicycle.
You like it? Well, it's very subtle because it absorbs all the shock, you see. So it's a very nice way to ride on a smooth way. And it's sustainable.
Yeah. Frank, you're missing out because Nantes is a great city. I've been there I think 4 times. I would say it's quite cosmopolitan. It's obviously much smaller than Paris, but pretty cosmopolitan. The people are dressing chic, but you also have a nice, cool student life too. So, you have a lot of good things. And the sea is like 40 minutes away. And you have multiple different schools and universities there. So there's a pretty good student life, bar scene, and all that stuff.
And it's only 2 hours
also
from
very
Paris.
Important. Don't forget.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. What did you say?
No, I just said it's 2 hours from Paris by train, so it's also not so far from the capital city.
Yeah.
That's right.
But I was going to say also, not to forget that as a student abroad, wherever you end up going, you are an ambassador to your country, and people will, if they haven't met other people from Canada before, you are forming their first opinions of what Canadians are like and what Canada is about. So it's important to represent your country well.
And what I wanted to mention as well, sorry, I forgot, but there is a real, just to be confident about the way of leaving your country and going far away. But France is not so far away from Canada, because there is a real link, cultural and linguistic link. Not to remind you that Canada has 2 official languages, English and French, and this means a lot. It means that we are cousins in a way. So coming to France is not, it's going away, going abroad, but not so far from your culture in a way. So that can bring.
I just want to add as well that it has been like only a couple of years, like 5 or 6 years, that we have a direct flight from Vancouver to Paris. We were Vancouver, the last destination where we had French people that had to go through either Heathrow, Amsterdam, or Frankfurt. But it was very successful until the COVID. But there's a market, and Air France caught the market, so Air Canada was even considering it. Anyway,
that's true. Frank, you remind me. I was on that flight. I was on that very first flight from Vancouver.
Exactly.
I was surprised to bump into you in the airport for the inauguration.
Inauguration day. The official day was invited there.
I got a certificate and everything.
You remember that? We are about to end the session, but I would like to take one question, and that's a question directly addressed to Antoine. Sorry, Rick. There are other questions, but I pick up that one. We have a few minutes. Just to show you, Antoine, that wood to talk to Canadians that especially in that part of Canada as well, where the wood industry is very big. There are now houses that are not made with wood. We don't use concrete in here, very, very rarely. Even buildings are made of wood, up to 3, 4 high stories buildings are made of wood. So that lady, Anna, she would like to know if you do offer at school a summer intensive for engineering students. So do you offer such a program at the ASB?
Well, thank you for the question. Yeah, we actually provide 2 programs in English. One is about wood science and sustainable management. I'm not sure it fits exactly with the summer period of Canada, but for us, it starts beginning of February until end of May. So it's a 4 or 5 month program that you can take with a bachelor or master degree, and it's an exchange program totally in English. And we have another one about international timber trade, which is really focused on the wood word exchange, also in English, national students and experts, starting from September to January.
Thank you. Before we end, are there any other things that you'd like to mention that I might have forgot to talk about? Or are you okay here? We covered pretty much everything.
I think we covered a lot of good stuff.
There were very good information, very valuable.
Sorry, maybe just one word, just to conclude, but I think you understood from my experience and my speech. Don't be afraid to go abroad. Don't be afraid to try today. You won't be disappointed. You will just discover yourself better. You will challenge yourself. You will go and go further. You will meet a lot of people. You will maybe face some difficulties, but this will make you stronger. Definitely there and come to France. You're welcome. Vous êtes bienvenue.
Antoine, that's official. We should push you to become official ambassador from the French government to France.
Frank, maybe I will say
thank you again very much.
Thank you again very much for your conferences. If you have any questions, any in the audience has any questions they want to ask us directly, at least for me, I think Antoine is okay as well. On LinkedIn, you can find us by searching our names. Happy to answer any questions that you think of after the fact. As Frank said in the beginning, I coach people who are applying for schools around the world, obviously including France, which I know the best. So don't hesitate to reach out to me, and I'd be happy to work with you.
Very good. I wanted to finish with that, Eric. Thanks very much. Just to remember people that that book about the how to consider MBA into France. So all those information that you can find in there as well. I'd like to thank you very much. It's kind of late. It's almost 8 o'clock in France. This is the 8 o'clock news TV. That's very important. The big mass, as well as dinner. So I'll let you go to your home, and thank you again very much for your time and all those valuable tips and keys. I again just want to share everyone that that session will be available on replay by the end of this week. As Eric said, that if you want to reach any of the panelists or myself, ourselves, do not hesitate. We come back to you with any answers of questions you might have. Thank you again, and have a great rest of the day. Thanks again. Bye.
Bye bye. Au revoir.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.